Good evening and welcome. This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Evanston. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for major variations, special uses, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator. Depending on the type of matter, this board will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. Will you please call the roll, Scott?
Chair Burns.
Oh, here.
Board Member Arivola.
Here.
Board Member Cullen.
Present.
Board Member Deacon.
Here.
Board Member Gingold.
Here.
Board Member Murnchef.
Here.
Do you want to do Mary?
And Board Member Macaulay is not present.
All right, with 6 members present, we do have a quorum tonight. Also present tonight is Planning and Zoning Administrator Scott Mangum. This is a formal meeting, and there are rules that govern our proceedings, and most importantly, only one person speaks at a time, so all testimony may be accurately recorded. Anyone who wishes to address the board regarding any matter on the agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from the staff on the documents on file, and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. Next, persons who wish to make a statement regarding the matter may do so at that time. Any person with a legal interest in property located within 500 feet of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then, the board will close the record and begin deliberations. All testimony will be under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony or statement to your personal knowledge. When you address the board, please state your name and address and sign in on the provided sheet. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you are at a microphone when you asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. There is one item on the agenda tonight, and 716 Church is here. You're here? They're here. All right, so the first thing on our item on our agenda is the meeting minutes, and did everybody get a chance to read those?
Yes.
Yep.
Any comments? Any changes? No?
No.
Fantastic. How about a motion?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 7, 2017.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so those have been approved. All right. Next, we're going to, first we're going to swear in anybody who's going to speak. So anybody who's going to speak tonight, can I get you to raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Yes. Fantastic. All right, Scott, will you go ahead and read the case into the record, please?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the public. The request tonight is for a special use permit to operate a Type 2 restaurant, Colectivo Coffee Roasters, within the D3 Downtown Core Development District. This is a proposed reuse of a vacant commercial space at a church in Sherman. This item has been before DAPR that unanimously recommended approval with a condition regarding the storefront windows and returning to DAPR to ensure that those are transparent windows prior to the opening of the restaurant. City staff has reviewed the application as well as the standards for approval for special uses and also recommends approval of the special use permit. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a recommending body on this matter, and the City Council has final authority. That concludes a summary of the staff report and available for questions. Thank you.
All right, if you'd like to come up and tell us a little bit about your project, please. Thank you. Starting with your name and business address.
Good evening. My name is Scott Schwebel, Schwebel. I'm from Colectivo Coffee. I'm here about the project at 714 Church, corner of Church and Sherman. Our plans are, there were some materials put in the packet, but essentially our plans are to restore the corner, restore the windows as previously mentioned. This is a loose floor plan. We're technically not a restaurant. I don't know how much information you'd like for me to give, but I'm happy to give as much as necessary. We refer to ourselves as a cafe primarily that distinction is because we don't have black iron in our kitchens. We use a hoodless technology on our food. We are a 25-year-old company based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're a artisan coffee, bakery, food maker. We intend to build a Colectivo cafe. We have numerous other cafes that we've operated. Our product is all made fresh, trucked through our delivery vehicles that come in and deliver bakery daily. As mentioned, we're experienced operators. We've worked hard to maintain and preserve a very sort of highly respectful and I think well-deserved reputation as very good operators.
Scott?
Yes.
Are you from the corporate operations, or are you?
I am. We're not. Yes.
You
We're
don't
an
live?
independently owned company, but yes.
You don't live in Illinois?
I do not. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. How many Collectivos are there?
There are 16 in the state of Wisconsin, so there's 13 in Milwaukee, 3 in Madison, and then we opened our first one in Chicago in May of this year.
Is it all owner operated, or is it
Owner-operated.
franchise?
Nope, all owner operated. 100%
Okay.
owner operated.
Will you be on site in Evanston?
Me personally?
Yes.
I will not be on site. I mean, I'm on site at all of our cafes, but we hire local management.
And have you done that yet with respect to this property, or?
We have not. No,
Okay.
we're still in the planning phases.
Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Yep. So yeah, we operate daily. We generally open no earlier than 6 a.m. and stay open no later than 8 p.m. Sometimes at or 11 p.m. Sometimes that's seasonal. We might open a little bit later in the winter months and close a little bit earlier, and vice versa. Delivery, as I mentioned, we have we're a vertically integrated organization, so our delivery drivers, we take deliveries daily. Generally, they're after hours or before opening. So all of our bakery is made fresh. All of our food components are made fresh and assembled on site if they're sandwiches, but the bakery is all delivered fresh. Employees, our cafes generally employ between 20 to 24, 25 employees. Those are always sort of out of the neighborhoods where we do business.
What's sort of at a given time, how many employees are on site?
On a busy Saturday in a location like this, so we're essentially 2,700-ish square feet. There might be 6 employees working. There could be as many as 8 at one point, and then generally 3 or 4 is sort of more of the low-time evening crew.
So obviously this area is served by public transportation, but you never know who your employees will be, and you may have employees that need to drive. Typically in this area, we don't want businesses using metered parking for their employees. Have you given thought to where your employees will park if they need to?
So 2 things. One, all of our cafes are in sort of dense urban areas. We have very strict and highly managed employee parking policies. The reality of the mix of our employees, probably 80 to 90% generally come from within the area. We have incentives on multimodal transportation, so whether it's public transportation or we offer bike incentives for our employees. We prefer that our customers have the priority or primary parking spots, so we usually work with either the landlord and or the municipality to identify what would be the most appropriate parking spot if in fact we do have car transportation as a primary means of our employees. Generally though, for the nature of the business that we're in, a lot of them don't have cars. They come by public transportation, or they're college kids or neighborhood individuals. But we have an active parking policy.
Okay, great.
I saw in the DAPR minutes that there was a concern by an area business owner that she felt the area might be becoming oversaturated with coffee shops. Obviously, you've done your due diligence in looking at the Evanston market. Is there anything that you can speak to that concern?
Well, a couple of things. One, we feel that we offer something that the other neighboring competition doesn't. Two, I can tell you out of the history of our business, we've gone into places where we've had long-standing wholesale customers. Their businesses actually thrive. You know, we look at ourselves as an amenity to the neighborhood, and so we think that, you know, our ability to operate, especially on a corner like we've chosen in Evanston, ideally, you know, we believe we have something to share and we want to participate, and it's going to enhance the neighborhood. I know the concern you're referencing. You know, I've got multiple situations that are very similar where you know, once again, it's a free market. I can't comment on that, but I can tell you in all the other situations, we've improved business. We've improved sort of street traffic on the neighborhood, and you know, we feel we have something distinct that's different than sort of the neighboring businesses. And you know, we believe, you know, more is better in this situation. So.
I've had the opportunity to be in one of your cafes in Milwaukee, and I was looking it up because I wanted to ensure that I was correct in my recall. And so I've been in the location across the street from the public market building.
Oh yeah, in the third ward. Yeah.
And if I have it correct, it's the location that has the kind of the unique windows.
Yeah, our Rube Goldberg sort of hand.
Yeah, I actually took pictures of those windows because they were so distinct and lovely. And so I'm curious if you can speak to sort of, I know the Dapper Minutes called out wanting you to come back and talk about how the windows will be treated. And obviously it's an important corner. And right now as Radio Shack is there and many of those windows have been closed off. And I don't know how long that's been true, but can you speak to sort of what you see in terms of the window and ground floor treatment there?
Well, first of all, we believe in engaging the sidewalk. We love the pedestrian nature. All of our cafes are sort of in similar environments, so we want to return the storefront glass. We have this saying, we like people to be able to, we like blurring the lines between indoor and out, so our plan are to sort of restore all the storefront with custom operable windows. You know, we treat every cafe like it's a work of art, no two are alike. We share a similar DNA, but they're truly all hand-built, so our intentions are to really sort of revitalize this corner and not only with windows, but everything we make is, you know, we make our own furniture, we make our own lights, we make our own tables. So we'll give it the same level of TNC. Those windows in the Third Ward are very special. They were fabricated on site over. They're lovely. But
They're beautiful.
I'm glad you noticed them.
They're beautiful. Yeah. And do you anticipate having an outdoor seating area?
We would like to utilize, what will be appropriate with sort of. We think there's no better way to advertise your business than having people sit outside. The nature of our business is, you know, we want to activate that corner. So yes, we do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You roast your own beans on site?
We don't roast them on site. No, we have two sort of what we call our flagship facilities. So our roasting facility, which is in Milwaukee, which is where my office is, all the roasting is handled there. And then we have our bakery commissary, which is also in Milwaukee, where all the components for the food and then all the bakery is made. And then that is all shipped daily into every one of our cafes.
Can you speak to what food prep does take place on site?
So it's assembly, and then there's, you know, we use a technology, a piece of equipment called the Turbo Chef. It's kind of convection, microwave, classic oven. So there's certain items that are pre-assembled and then they're reheated on site, but most of it, like for example, one of our best-selling items is a chicken sandwich. So the chickens are all grilled in the commissary kitchen. The components are all assembled. It comes with a homemade slaw and homemade pickles. They're all bundled up and then they're shipped in, and then we call it a pantry or our SB. And then those materials are assembled to make the sandwich. So once again, it's not traditional black iron. You know, there's a certain amount of sort of convection reheating that's done on certain products, but otherwise everything else is sort of assembled from pieces that are prepared at our commissary. Does that answer your question effectively?
Yep, very much, thanks.
Okay.
Sir, what are your hours of operation?
It's generally no earlier than 6 a.m. and no later than 11 p.m. It depends on the neighborhood, and those are also seasonal. So we have another cafe actually opening tomorrow in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, and that's going to be a 6:30 a.m. until 10 p.m. But none of our cafes, the only cafes that really stay open until 11 are cafes that have really substantial patio access or location. So my guess here is probably 6:30 to 9, maybe 6:30 to 10 in the summer, depending on how the neighborhood sort of handles itself.
And you plan to take deliveries before 6:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Where are those deliveries taking place? Because it doesn't look like you have access.
They'll go in through the front door.
Which means they're parking on the street.
Yeah, in some capacity. Yep.
And what size trucks are those?
They're all like Sprinter vans, so they're small scale vehicles. Deliveries. I've got 28, now 30 accounts in the city of Chicago where the bakery trucks come in and out, and so they're surgical, it's in, out. So, and I was made aware in the DAPR meeting of the no parking policy in downtown Evanston. We'll be good citizens. We'll do our best to not create an issue, but generally it's a very quick delivery. So.
And what time do those deliveries take place?
The trucks, the fresh bakery is actually coming out of, I don't know what time it is right now, is getting ready to come out of the ovens, cooled, packed, ship. Our trucks usually leave Bayview around midnight, and so they're in and out of the city before 5 a.m.
Okay.
My guess is Evanston, we think logistically Evanston's going to be the back half of our route, so more than likely our truck will hit Evanston around 5:15 on its way back to Wisconsin, which might be just outside of actually your parking window. I don't know when, if it goes until 4, if it goes until 5, but anyway.
I'm a little familiar with that property, and I know they do have a back bay. Are you going to access the back area?
We are not allowed to access.
You're not allowed
No,
to do that?
No.
Okay.
Yep. That's where our trash will be stored, but then it's wheeled out to the trash vehicle. So, yeah.
Does your proposal include serving alcohol on site?
We do make our own beer, and yes, we're hoping to serve beer. It's all of our cafes. It's part of what we offer. We believe it's a great pairing for our food, but it's our beer exclusively.
Any other questions from anyone?
I believe in the packet I saw that you were made aware of Evanston's sustainability policies and that you're willing to
Absolutely.
comply with those.
Yeah. We're a mission-driven company. Those are things that we have our own checklist for those. So it's standard for us always to have standard trash and recycling. We're very familiar with. We promote all of that. We also have programs for our customers to encourage sustainability, whether it's reusable vessels or we have discounts if you bring your coffee bag back in and we can refill it. So we try to be good citizens that way too.
I am curious, this is more just my curiosity, how did you find Evanston in this location? You obviously only have one location in Chicago so far, so you haven't penetrated very deeply into the Chicago market.
Yep.
So how did you find this location?
Well, we're on our way in Chicago, so our second one opens tomorrow, and then we've also have a location in Andersonville that will open in spring that we just started construction on. So I'm a multi stint Chicagoan myself. This specific location was presented to us by a broker. We actually weren't really looking in Evanston at first, even though we knew that we would love to move this way. My college roommate is a Northwestern soccer coach, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood and have always come through. It was presented to us, and we thought the corner was fantastic, and we could instantly see, how to bring it back to life. So that's how we were initially introduced to it. And I do all of our real estate, so I do all. I'm in Chicago multiple days a week. I come down on the train or drive in, and so I scour the neighborhoods and get to meet people. And it was the same thing when I heard about it. Started making some inquiries, and Evanston's been very supportive, which we appreciate. So
Great, thank you.
mhm.
Any other questions? No. Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Not
You
used
can
to
go
being the
ahead.
only agenda item.
You can go ahead and have a seat. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this matter? You would?
I'm not on the list, but could I?
You absolutely can. I did not see you raise your hand when I swore people in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let me
I just wanted to address one point that.
hang on. Let me just swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings?
I do.
Fabulous. Come on up. Give us your name and address, please. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
My name is Jim Romanesco. I live at 1516 Hinman Avenue. I don't know Scott, but I know your partners, Lincoln and Ward Fowler. I met them in the early 1990s. I also have a place in Milwaukee within walking distance of 2 of your stores, and I would just like to vouch that Colectivo is a great place. The food is excellent, your coffee is excellent, the staff is excellent, and I know in Milwaukee that they've really vitalized different neighborhoods. It seems to me that every neighborhood that you've moved in has been energized. Other small businesses have moved in, and I think Colectivo has been an inspiration for many entrepreneurs in Milwaukee. To your point about the person saying there may be too many coffee shops, I suggest they go to Pete's Coffee at 10 a.m. and try to find a seat. And in all likelihood, they would not find one. They might then walk over to Unicorn. It would be tough to find one there. I just think in this university community, you can't have too many coffee shops in the downtown area. But so I give Colectivo 5-star review, and when I read that they could be moving 4 or 5 blocks from my apartment, I was thrilled. So welcome to Evanston if you get here.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you have a response to that? You're allowed one more statement if you'd like to make it. You don't have to. We can end on a 5-star rating if you'd like. Okay, fantastic. We're going to go ahead and close. We're going to go ahead and close the record, and we're open for comment now from anybody on the board.
Well, I'll start. This is obviously an important commercial corridor, an important commercial intersection that's been vacant and underutilized for some time. And I think it's exciting to see a business come in that's wanting to activate that corner, that is wanting to invest in the building and look to ways of making it more visually attractive to pedestrians. I think that's appropriate for this area and exciting. I often am, working from area coffee shops, so at Capital, at Pete's, at many of the independent coffee shops that we have in town, and they are all bustling. So I agree that having an operator like Colectivo come into that location is a positive for our downtown.
Those are great comments, and I agree with them. I've been to Colectivo in Milwaukee and can vouch for the 5-star rating that it was given here by our community tonight. And I also think with respect to the concern that the owner of the Unicorn Coffee Shop expressed in front of Dapper about the number of coffee shops in downtown Evanston, that, like Lisa said, I think they all seem to be bustling. And frankly, the market will sort itself out, and more of them will just encourage better competition and better products from all of them. So I think this is a great project, and I'm excited to see that space in particular go to use.
Thank you. How about that end?
I feel like this is a good project, and if he's figured out his market share, being across the street from Panera and the Barnes & Noble's bookstore, I've been there in the middle of the day on the weekend, and you can't get a seat anywhere. So this will probably be a great place to go, and it should be a good addition to our restaurant row, which is what we call that area.
Thank you.
I think it's a good project, and I think it'll revitalize that corner. I'm good.
Great. Thank you.
Same here. I think this corner needs a little bit more life things, so they will bring it. So, in support.
Excellent. A lot of really good comments here. I agree with everything that's been said. I'm excited about your the uniqueness that you say you bring to each individual store, and that uniqueness somehow reflecting Evanston and what some of our values are here as well. And so I think that'll be really interesting to see that happen on that corner, which is an important corner. Everybody's been talking about that corner for a long time. So, all right, so we will go into standards for special uses then. There are 9 of them, and the first one is, it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance, and it is. So number 2, it's in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. Some of the goals of the comprehensive general plan are to promote growth and redevelopment and to strengthen our economic base. And clearly a business that is thriving and growing and has glowing reviews from many segments is a good choice for Evanston and for our economic base. So I think that that standard has been met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed special use upon the city as a whole. I don't think that, again, one more coffee shop is going to be the tipping point for negative cumulative effect. The purpose of a special use is not to hinder competition. It's really about the negative cumulative effect on public utilities and services and the way transportation is and all that sort of stuff. And it's certainly never about stifling competition, which I think we all think is a good thing. So I don't think that there is a negative cumulative effect here. So I think that that standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. In fact, it won't. By again, activating that corner and by bringing in something unique that will be loved by those people, by people in Evanston, I think you're going to get the value of that property is going to increase dramatically, and certainly in the surrounding properties as well. So I think that standard has been met. It can be adequately served by public facilities and services. Certainly there is public transportation in the area as well as many parking garages. So I think that we've got that covered as a way for any customers to come and have a place to park. So I think that that standard has been met. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. My sense is that the bulk of your traffic is going to be foot traffic anyhow, rather than by car. So I don't think that I don't think that that will happen. I don't think you will cause undue traffic congestion. So I think that standard has been met. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. Now, this is one of the rare instances where we actually have a nice looking building. And by bringing the windows back to an operable situation, I think would be very nice and enhance that the architecture on the building. So I think that that standard has been met. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. That does not apply. And number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it's located and other applicable ordinances, except through the extent to such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation. And that doesn't apply either. So given that, with all the 9 standards having been met, is there a motion with a couple of conditions, right? Hours. Yep. So hours that we've given in that neighborhood?
6 to 11.
12. We gave Vietnam Nam 6 to 12, and we gave I can't remember the name of the pokey place. We gave them 6 to 12, so I would say we just give them 6 to 12 as well. And then this transparent storefront windows and, all the other stuff we love.
Yep. Okay. I make a motion in the matter ZBA 17 ZMJV-0101 that we recommend that City Council grant the special use requested, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the hours of operation be limited from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m., 7 days a week. 2, that employees be prohibited from utilizing the metered street parking to the extent any employees are using parking at all. 3, that the applicant be required to commit to transparent windows as recommended or discussed by in front of DAPR and here tonight. And last, that the property otherwise be developed and run in accordance with the testimony and documents submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With a vote of 6 to 0, you go on to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Good luck with your project. Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the CBA Rules update. So Scott, tell us all about that.
Sure. The next 2 items are related. In 2018, we're looking to move the ZBA meetings from twice a month to once a month. So the one change that's proposed for the rules has to do with Article 6, where it states that currently states that regular meetings shall be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month. The proposal is to change this to being held on the third Tuesday of each month, so striking the first and as you'll see in the next item, sometimes there are conflicts, so they're on the 2018 schedule, you'll see some fourth Tuesdays.
I'm wondering, and I know this may or may not be possible, so I'm trying to get a sense from you guys. Does it make sense for anybody, since we're going to have fewer meetings, my guess is they're going to go longer because we're going to get more items on them. And I know that sometimes we start to get a little sleepy by 9 o'clock. So I'm wondering if we want to start earlier and if that's possible for anybody. Thoughts
Like what?
on that? Like maybe 6?
I think I can only speak for me, but I think starting before 7 will make my attendance more erratic.
Okay. So it's functionally impossible to get here. Even 6:30 to 6:30.
And I think applicants also might have a problem. I mean, it butts up against people's work day the earlier you go.
right.
Especially if you have a family.
No, I totally get that. It's just we're going to end up with some longer meetings, and they're going to start going past 10.
You're going to just do them faster.
Oh yeah. Because suddenly I'm not going to have an opinion. Okay. Right.
So what causes this change that we meet only once a month?
We took a look last year. There were a total of 30 cases that were heard by the ZBA. So over 24 meetings, that's not a lot per meeting. So I think it's, in some sense, it's more efficient from staff time and saves you all some time as well to have them once a month. We've been doing this with the Plan Commission meetings. And then also what we do is kind of where necessary, we'll schedule special meetings. So sometimes there is a crunch or a caseload that comes in, and then we have the ability to check for quorum.
My point is that really sometimes on the other side of the board, when you have to present a project, it's really painful if you have to wait more than a month, because there will be such cases. So my point is that we have to be sensitive to the need of applicants, and if we need to have a special meeting, that's fine. But usually an applicant should not wait more than a month to get to the zoning board. And because of the procedures that are before the zoning board and date of submittal and all these things, sometimes you miss a meeting and then you have to wait another month. And it's really wasting time and finances, I would say, of the applicant, because some of them have leases and things. So that's my point. I would say that we should be sensitive to the applicant's needs too.
I think that's a great point, actually. I mean, I understand what's driving this, and I'm not necessarily against the modification, but what's the downside to continuing as we are and simply canceling a meeting if we don't have agenda items or enough agenda items that need to be called every 2 weeks? We can still try to load to once a month and manage to that. But I think Kirill makes a good point, which is we make ourselves as a board and as a community a lot less nimble if there are only 12 meetings a year.
So the downside to making this once a month would be what? What Scott asked?
I think
What's the
what
downside?
Kirill's suggesting is the downside to accepting the edit and making it once a month. There are multiple potential downsides. One is we're not nimble enough to address the needs of the community because some applicants are going to have to wait a month or perhaps more, since the meetings are going to go longer and be more jam-packed, right? Like if we have 6 items on the agenda and we find ourselves at 10 o'clock at night, having only gotten through 3, some of those items are going to get kicked another month to the next meeting. So by having only once a month meetings, we're making ourselves less nimble to the needs of the development community to address their requests in a timely way. And then the other downside, which Mary Beth mentioned, is we're going to have longer meetings, much longer meetings.
How many cases does Melissa normally put on one agenda? Just average. 3?
4.
4?
Four's usually, four historically has been the max, right? We used to do more when we used to go after 10. And then there was the goal to stop at 10 p.m. So in response to the question, right, if we don't get to everybody, we do have a mechanism in the rules where we can set up a special meeting. So if we get to the end of a meeting, we can, and not everybody's been resolved, we can say, all right, we're gonna make a new meeting. So I think we do have that flexibility. I do know, for example, with these next two meetings, right, January 9th and the 23rd, there are 3 on both, and January 9th's meeting is gonna be hairy. That is gonna be long and painful. And there's only 3 on it, and that third one's probably not going to get to before 10 o'clock, just given the other 2. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to tell you we get to take a nap that day. I might have to take a nap that day.
I haven't
So-
really been here past 10 except for my very first meeting, which I thought was a test of fire and blood. That's what I thought it was, right? So I haven't, and that was 6 on the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't know,
6
and I
is
haven't
pretty rare.
seen that. Yeah, and I haven't seen that.
I think part of it is staff is doing a better job of talking people out of bad ideas,
Which is good.
of things that they know won't pass muster. So I think there's been an exceptional job on that front. So given that we have the flexibility to always add meetings,
That's true.
Is it bad to just say, all right, let's go with 12?
Well, here's my
we're
personal
always
feeling
adding.
on it. I don't have a problem with changing the rules so that our default is to meet once a month. However, I still think staff should be trying to manage meetings to a 3-hour schedule. And if the need arises within a meeting, or because it's clear everything that needs to be called at a meeting can't be,
Right.
that we be advised and that we, as a default, agree to schedule a second meeting or a meeting to address those other items only 2 weeks later.
I
As a
agree with
default.
that.
I mean, obviously, our own schedules will dictate when we schedule it for, and I don't think the rules need to say this, but I think we should have an unwritten practice, if you will, that's kind of how we're going to handle it.
I agree with that.
Because in that same section, right, special hearings or meetings can be called by the chair at their discretion upon the request of 2 or more members, provided public notice of said hearing is published as required. Do we have notice problems if we say, we're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks?
If an item has been noticed for a meeting, then it could be continued to a date certain.
Okay.
How about if an item has not been noticed for a meeting, Scott? Can you notice it within 2 weeks?
No, we'd need additional time for that. It'd be 15 to 30 days.
Oh, so it
of
would be
notice
more
in
like
the newspaper.
3 weeks.
No, you
Or
need a full
3 to 4,
You
yeah,
need
4
to get it to
weeks.
the mailing company to send out and to get
Okay.
it to the Evanston Review for their deadline to put it in the paper.
Okay.
I think that there should be something like, let's say, internal rule that including the announcement procedures, an applicant should not wait more, let's say, than a month to present in front of the zoning board. It cannot be ruled. I know this as a strict rule, but I think this should be our wish so that we can serve the community better. So from the date of application, including all the procedures, there should be waiting time like a month. And this should be, I believe this should be okay, both with applicants and with us.
I think
Yeah, that
that's a good
sounds-
goal.
Yeah, I think that to me
Yeah.
that sounds like a goal,
A goal.
for the zoning department rather than a rule for the
Correct.
board.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we can kind of have it as a internal rule. It's a good thing to serve the community better.
Scott, can you clarify sort of how are there these kind of best practices in terms of how much time elapses from when an application comes in till it's heard before DAPR or the Historic Preservation or whomever the sort of the applicable committee is? Are there sort of best practice standards within the city that we should be aware of?
A lot of it is driven by the noticing requirements
Okay.
of getting in the Evanston Review. We typically use to notice it, and they only publish once a week and publish on Thursdays. So where it needs to be 15 days ahead of time, it's actually longer than that because it's a Thursday and the zoning board meets on a Tuesday. Typically it's about a month out when the notice would go to the Evanston Review to be put in the paper. There's a little wiggle room. There may be sometimes an additional week that it could get closer. But typically we would kind of err on the side of caution. About a month out is when the wheels start turning for that.
And unfortunately, right, those of us in the profession, we wait until the last minute because clients haven't made up their mind. You don't have your design set, all that sort of stuff. So there is always this sort of last crush right at the 30-day mark. There's a deadline to get it in by that certain time. It's sort of a crapshoot because you don't know if you're going to be that fourth person on the agenda, or because there are already 4 people on the agenda, you've got kicked to the next agenda. So it doesn't happen all the time that you get kicked to the next. I'd say it's actually fairly uncommon that you get kicked to the next one. It's just January seems to be insane because there's a couple of things that are lingering that have been, these last 2 that were canceled, things that we're hearing in January were originally on those, and those applicants kicked their meetings. So that's why we've got this.
I like the idea
Crazy
of over noticing for a meeting and continuing. So let's say the average practice would be to put 6 items on the agenda for 1 month meeting. And if you get through 4, then you have 2 that have been properly noticed, as Scott said, and you can conduct a new special meeting 2 weeks later under the rules. What I was going to ask, though, is I don't read the public notices. Do we tell the public in the notice, like, no new cases will start after 10 p.m., matters may be continued to a special meeting? Maybe we could add that to the notice so somebody who realizes their case is number 6 probably isn't going to be gotten to, and and doesn't come and sit for a 3 or 4 hour meeting only to find out it's going to happen again in 2 weeks.
I'm
Except that
confused.
you have to come sit for the meeting because if by chance we get through them faster, you have to be prepared and be ready to present.
Sure, I just think
So-
like giving. I'm thinking more
Well, you
like
mean, like-
interested public.
Okay,
like,
right, the people within 500 feet or
Yeah,
that sort of stuff,
just,
right?
I mean, giving them kind of a heads up, like, hey, look, our rules say no new case is going to be called after 10 p.m.
Right.
I'm confused and concerned with the way I'm understanding what you're proposing. So you're suggesting that we overnotice so that we provide notice for a meeting for items that might not actually be, that we might not get to on the agenda, anticipating that we might not get to them on the agenda, which would allow us to take those items and then do a meeting 2 weeks later so that we have the public notice time. So then in that event, would all 5 or 6 cases come in our meeting minutes? So then it's a little unclear. So if I'm preparing for a meeting, am I preparing for all 5 or 6 cases with the expectation like, oh, maybe we're not going to get to 2 or 3 of these? So from my viewpoint as a board, as a member, it makes my preparation a little muddier. And I think from like a public engagement viewpoint, it's not as clean also. So that's concerning to me.
The other alternative is we continue to let staff do what they're doing. So what they knew this was going to happen with January.
Yeah.
They knew that those two of the first meeting were going to be long, and they were only going to get a third short one in there. And so that's why we ended up with 2 meetings in January.
Yeah, I think
I think that it might be that we need staff needs to have more flexibility to be able to do that.
I think the way we're proposing, where it's set for, the 1 Tuesday a month with staff managing it appropriately to try to balance the agenda items, seems reasonable. And that way, when I get my meeting minutes, I can assume that for, generally all of these cases are going to be heard that night. And the public can assume, in general, they should expect that all of those cases will be heard that night. Because to come out and sit through a 3-hour meeting to have your case kicked to the next meeting, that's really discouraging people from coming out and engaging in the process. And so I don't want to set up.
I totally agree with that. I think that we should trust staff
Yeah.
in scheduling the meeting. So probably for them it is obvious when we
Right.
have big number of cases, they will split it into two. So I think we can trust them.
And the staff also knows when there's a contentious case, and we have
Yeah,
the possibility
exactly.
of listening to 50 neighbors.
So how, in practice then, we're approving a schedule after we discuss this amendment. How in practice will it work if staff determines we need to have 2 meetings in February?
I think it's just like it just did, which is a quorum call for January 9th. Can everybody make it? I'm going to start scheduling people for that meeting. I think it's
Don't
gonna
we
be like
have
that.
to vote in public to hold a special meeting?
No.
If the rule says we have 1 meeting a month, don't we have to vote to have a special meeting?
Special hearings or meetings may be called by the chair at their discretion.
Okay,
So I can magically do it.
okay,
I didn't. but I
And
can.
that, obviously, that meeting will be properly noticed as well.
Yeah.
okay.
Or
Right.
upon
I
the
think it's properly
request of
noted.
2 or more members.
Or 2 or more members, right?
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
so, but you all won't, whatever.
The
But
thing
that's
I
crazy.
still feel strongest about is I don't think we should be having meetings going till 11 p.m. I think we should still be guarding the back end of the meeting.
Okay.
I agree.
And if we can't do that, then I think we shouldn't be moving away from 2 meetings a month.
Okay.
I agree.
And in general, it's agreed that we want to stick with 7 p.m. Anything before 7 p.m. is just a non-negotiable.
It's tough.
Okay. Okay. Had to ask. Had to ask.
Do we have to vote on this rule change?
Yes. So we need a motion, a second, and then a vote.
I move that we approve the proposed change to the ZBA rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with that vote, we change the rules. So the next on the ZBA schedule, right, is that we've added that one next in January, early January. And again, just a heads up, 2 of those are contentious with neighbors where it has the potential to be very long. So,
That's the first meeting in January? Or
yes, the first meeting in January. Gear up.
I would.
January 9th.
I'd suggest then that whatever you have scheduled as the 3rd case, you informally let the applicant know that it may not make it that night.
I think that Melissa and I were talking about it today, and the potential, that 3rd one is pretty cut and dry. We may get that one first, get that one out of the way, and then everybody who's sitting here for some contention can enjoy it.
At their
So,
leisure.
That seems like the best way to handle that is get the quick one out, and then move on to the problematic ones.
Okay.
So to that end, we need everybody here on January 9th. So we don't have to listen to them
Do we
twice.
have to do we have to make a motion to approve this schedule for the year?
I do. Oh, do we do? I don't
Yes.
think we've ever done that.
No.
I think we always do it.
Really? I have no recollection. So let's make a motion. Let's over motion.
I move that we approve the proposed schedule for the year, subject to any magic that the chair finds for special meetings.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with that, the motion carries. All right. Last motion of the night.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Scott
Stay
gets to
right
stay.
here
Scott can stay till 10 o'clock.
until January 9th.
Right.